folks.
Magandang tanghali Pilipinas, no? Broadcasting live from our isolation facility po dito sa San Juan. Ito po ang inyong Thursday presidential briefing. Nagpapasalamat po kami sa naging desisyon ng Korte Suprema na ibasura ang petisyon, no? Nagko-question sa naging aksyon ng Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte na mag-unilaterally withdraw sa International Criminal Court. Itong ruling ng kataas-taasang hukuman na nakabase sa mootness ay isang pagkilala na ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas ang punong arkitekto or chief architect ng ating polisiyang panlabas or foreign policy. Dahil dito nananawagan kami sa ICC na huwag nang magsayang panahon sa kanilang mga investigasyon dahil hindi nila kinikilala ng Pilipinas ang jurisdiksyon ng ICC. Patunay rin ito na gumagana ating mga prosesong legal kaya tama lamang na tigilan na ang pakikialam ng ICC sa ating domestic affairs. We ask the ICC to stop its investigation against the President because this investigation cannot prosper now that the Philippine Supreme Court has recognized the Philippine withdrawal from the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. The court's decision is also proof that domestic legal remedies are working and therefore, because of the principle of complementarity, the court should not exercise its jurisdiction. Now, itong desisyon pong ito, bagamat ang dismissal ay dahil sa mootness, ay patunay po talaga na wala pong nalabag sa kahit anong probisyon ng saligang batas o di naman kaya ng mga batas natin ng Presidente nung siya po ay tumiwalag sa ICC. Nakasulat po doon sa press release na siyempre po ang Presidente, gaya ng lahat ng opisyalis ng ating bayan, ay dapat sumunod sa saligang batas at sa ating mga batas. Pero kung meron pong nalabag, hindi po dapat na-dismiss ang petition for mootness. Bakit po? Kasi ang exception po to the mootness doctrine, kasama po dyan kung yung subject matter ng petition involves transcendental importance or di naman kaya it is capable of repetition and yet evasive of judicial review. So kung meron po talagang linabag sa saligang batas ang Presidente, hindi po dapat mootness ang naging desisyon ng ating hukuman. Pero antayin na rin po natin yung teksto mismo ng desisyon ng kataas-taasang hukuman. Samantala, ilan sa pag-uusapan po mamaya, magkakaroon po ng meeting mamaya ang IATF, ay ang Priority Group A4 ng National COVID-19 Vaccination Plan. Pag-uusapan din po ang paglalagay ng temporary travel ban sa lahat ng foreign nationals na nagre-request na pumasok sa Pilipinas. Nauna na pong lilimitahan ng National Task Force to 1,500 ang pwedeng makapasok ng mga pasahero sa Pilipinas at limitado po ito sa mga OFWs at mga Pilipino. May pag-uusapan din po ang mga issue na may kinalaman sa staysafe.ph. Kasama rin sa pag-uusapan ang obserbasyon ng Metro Manila Council ukol sa kinakailangan na COVID-19 ward allocation sa mga gobyernong ospital. Pag-uusapan din po ang hiling na bigyan prioridad ng mga OFWs na mapapadala sa high-risk countries na mabakunahan bago ang kanilang deployment. Pagdating naman po sa usaping libreng mask, makikita sa inyong screen ang alokasyon ng surgical mask ng mga local government units sa Metro Manila ayon sa March 17, 2021 datos ng DOH. Halos 30% bawat syudad ang inaasahang na mabibigyan. Kasama ito sa inventaryo ng DOH at magsimula na ang direktang pamamahagi sa mga lokal na pamahalaan. Samantala, as of March 18, 2021, sa ilalim ng Face Mask Distribution Project ay mayroon ng 11,088,639 pieces of cloth masks ang napamahagi ng DSWD sa Metro Manila, sa Region 3, Region 4A, Region 6, Region 7, and Region 11. Meron namang 1.5 pieces na maiti-turn over sa Cavite sa susunod na linggo at 1 million pieces sa Rizal, ang isang syudad sa Rizal. Usaping bakuna naman po tayo, as of March 16, 6 p.m., meron na tayong 240,297 na mga health workers na nabakunahan. Nasa 97% na po or 1,092,200 of available doses ang napamahagi na sa 956 vaccination sites sa 17 rehiyon sa Pilipinas. Usaping bakuna pa rin, lumabas kahapon na sa balita ang tungkol sa isang healthcare worker na namatay pagkatapos mabakunahan. Nakikiramay po kami sa healthcare worker nito. Pero namatay po yung ating healthcare worker dahil po sa COVID-19. Makakasama po natin mamaya si Dr. Romel Lobo ng Philippine Society of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology or PSAAI at miyembro ng National Adverse Event Following Immunization Committee para mas ipaliwanag ang nasabing insidente. Kasama rin po natin mamaya si Dr. Silvania para naman po sa usaping bakuna pa rin. COVID-19 updates naman po tayo. Mayroong na-report kahapon na 4,387 na mga bagong kaso ayon sa March 17 case bulletin ng DOH. Nananatiling napakataas naman po ang bilang ng mga gumagaling. Nasa 561,099 na po ang gumaling. Samantalang 12,866 ang mga namatay na po. Mas bumaba po ang ating case fatality rate at ngayon po ito ay 2.02%. Nakikiramay po kami. Tignan naman po natin ang ating mga ospital. Sapat pa ba ho ang ating mga ospital? Ngayong dumadami po ang kaso ng COVID-19. Well, mukha naman pong sapat pa sa ngayon. Meron pa po tayong 53% available na mga ICU beds. Meron pa po tayong 60% available na mga isolation beds. Meron pa tayong 67% available na mga ward beds. At meron po tayong 72% available na mga ventilators. Dito po tayo nagtatapos ng ating presentasyon. Unahin po muna natin si Dr. Romel Lobo. Sir, Dr. Lobo, kasama rin po pala natin maya-maya lang si Dr. Leopoldo Vega, DOH USEC, para pag-usapan yung ating healthcare utilization rate. At kasama rin po natin si NTF Deputy Chief Implementer Vince Dizon. Now, Sir, Dr. Lobo,
yes po.
Bilang miyembro noong adverse effect of vaccination, ano pong official report dito sa healthcare worker natin na nasawi po? Ano ho ang dahilan ng kanyang pagkasawi? Dr. Lobo, the floor is yours.
Yung pong dahilan ng pagkakasawi po niya ay dahil sa infection ng coronavirus. Siya po ay nagkaroon ng infection, nag-full-blown po siya, nagkaroon po naapektuhan po ang kanyang baga, nagkaroon po siya ng pneumonia, kanya po nagtuloy-tuloy at nag-deteriorate po yung kanyang kondisyon. Totally, alam po natin na lahat po kasi ng mga binabakunaan nagkakaroon po ng health declaration. Yung pong health declaration na yun ay ginagawa po natin para mapangalagaan ang kalusugan po ng mga each and every one na magpapabakuna. At that health declaration form po, nakita po natin ang declaration lang niya ay meron siyang comorbidities, may diabetes, meron po siyang hypertension na control, at the same time meron po siyang bronchial asthma na control din po, naka-maintenance siya. Tinatanong din po doon kung meron po kayong symptoms ng COVID o kayo po ay nagkaroon ng COVID for the within last 3 months po. Kasi po, para mapangalagaan nga po natin ang kanilang kalusugan. Lahat po nun sa pagtatanong na yun, wala pong mga bagay na magsasabi po o signal na, safety signal po na sasabihin na hindi po siya dapat bakunaan. Kanya po siya ay nabakunaan. Kanya lang po, after a day, nagkaroon po siya ng non-productive cough na ina-attribute po niya parang allergy. Tapos nagkalagnat siya. Nagkaroon din po ng rashes the following day. Tapos bigla po siyang gumrabe po yung symptoms niya. Nag-consult sa emergency room. Ina-advise mo magpa-admit. Hindi pa rin po siya nagpa-admit. Sabi niya mag-go-home quarantine kasi yung symptoms po niya nagpo-point na sa COVID. Kanya lang po nung after 3 days na in-advise siya na umuwi po siya, bumalik siya, nagpa-admit na, medyo na po, mas lumala po ng konti yung simptomas. Tapos nagpa-swab, doon po natin nalaman na mayroon po siyang RT-PCR na COVID-19 positive po siya. Tapos tin-treat po siya accordingly, kanya lang po syempre, hindi na po nahabol yung situation. Yun po yung mga investigasyon na nakita namin. At nandoon din po yung totoo po na bakunaan siya, pero hindi naman po yun, wala po yung kinalaman sa kanyang pagkakasawi o paglala ng kanyang kondisyon. Yun po siya.
Masasabi ba ho natin na yung bakuna niya came too late? Kasi apparently nabakunahan siya, meron na siyang COVID-19.
Dahil po kasi ngayon po kasi meron tayong upsurge ng incidents po ng COVID-19, no? Hindi po natin kasi masasabi kung sino yung makakahawa sa atin. Hindi rin po naman natin masasabi na it came too late kasi po pagka po binakunaan tayo, usually it will take po mga 3 weeks before we develop a primary immune response para po magkakaroon tayo ng protection. Pero hindi pa po sapat yun. Kanya nga po tayo ay nagkakaroon ng second dose para mag-boost po nung una nating respond dun sa yung pong protection. Pagkatapos po nun, habang tumatagal, tumataas po yung ating protection, siyempre po magwe-wane yun, pero meron po tayong nagagawang parang memory tung sa binakuna sa atin. Para on second exposure, para do sa true virus, mas maganda po yung ating protection. Meron tayong mas magandang panlaban. Ngayon, hindi ko po masasabi kung it was too late. Baka po kasi at that time, na wala siyang sintomas, nag-i-incubate na rin po siya. Dahil syempre po, alam niyo po, health worker to, na-expose po kayo sa ospital. Hindi niyo rin po alam kung sino po yung mga meron o wala na nakakahalubilo niyo. Kanya po tayo, ini-encourage natin kahit na nga po nabakunaan tayo, we have to practice all yung pong hand hygiene, wearing of the face mask, the face shield, and socially distance po. It is always prudent to do that even if we be vaccinated fully po.
Well, maraming salamat Dr. Lobo. Please join us po sa open forum dahil I'm sure maraming tanong yung ating mga kasama sa Malacanang Press Corps. Kasama rin po natin si USEC Dr. Vega. Sir, ang aking na-report ngayon ay meron pang 53% available na ICU wards, 60% available na mga ward beds para sa COVID. Pero kamusta po ang ating sitwasyon sa Metro Manila dahil ang aking mga datos po ay national, no? Ano na po ang lagay ng ating healthcare utilization rate dito po sa Metro Manila at ano pong mga hakbang na ginagawa ng One Hospital Command Center?
Good afternoon, Sec Roque. Good afternoon ho sa lahat. And alam nyo, for the past several weeks, tinitingnan ho namin ang uptick and increasing trends sa number of positive cases natin dito sa buong bansa at saka sa Metro Manila. Pero nakakabahala sa Metro Manila because 47% of the new cases that we have is in Metro Manila. Ito yung napapansin din namin na nag-increase ang utilization rate ng COVID isolation beds, saka COVID wards, pati na rin yung ICU. Ang latest po namin sa One Hospital Command, yung data ho ng COVID beds and isolation, umaabot na ho sa 54% ang usage ho nito sa buong Metro Manila. Pero yung intensive care units, kasi kukonti naman ang number of intensive care units natin, siguro ang total nito is mga 679, nasa po sila ngayon? Nasa close to 64%. So in other words, yung mga 30% na lang ang available. But there are sa mga certain areas ho, like Manila, Makati, and Taguig, yung mga level 3 hospitals, alam niyo yung mga malalaking hospitals, both public and private, ito yung nagkaka-experience ng nasa high risk category between moderate and high risk. Some are even in high risk. Ibig sabihin mga 80% or 83% na ho ang occupied. Ito yung namin, binabantayan po namin kasi ito yung pwede ho kami makatulong in terms of coordinated care and referral sa mga hospitals naman na may allocation pa for beds, no, especially for moderate and severe. So ito yung ngayon, data right now na na-experience namin dito sa Metro Manila, and we hope na whatever good practices we had last year, kasi alam naman natin last year, the peak of the cases were up by in July and August of last year. And that was the time that we really had to improve in terms of the response of the government hospitals. Kaya nga tinupad ng ibang government hospitals po at saka private na mag-allocate ng certain number of beds. In fact, last year, 11% lang ho ang private hospitals nag-allocate for COVID beds at saka government ho, nasa ano lang, mga 25%. But now, it is safe to say na nag-increase na ho ang capacity ng hospitals, lalo na yung private, kasi nasa 20% allocation na po sila at saka yung government retained hospitals po natin ay nasa mga 32%. So, nag-improve na ho yung capacity at nagkaroon na rin good experience itong mga healthcare workers natin on how to treat itong COVID patients in both categories, the moderate and severe. Kasi alam naman natin na meron na pulong guidelines sa treatment of COVID na yung better ang kanilang outcomes. So, ganun ang situation ngayon, Secretary Harry Roque.
Okay, thank you, Yusek Vega. I hope you join us also for the open forum. And then we also have on board testing Sir Vince Dizon. Sec Vince, are you in the house? O wala na? Okay, mukhang wala pa po si Sec Vince Dizon or mukhang talagang hindi siya sasama, no? Anyway, pumunta na po tayo sa ating open forum. First question from Yusek Roque, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary Roque, at sa ating po mga bisita from Rose Novenario of Hataw. Dahil patuloy ang pagtaas ng bilang ng kaso ng COVID-19 sa bansa, may balak ba ang palasyo na kanselahin muna ang mga presidential event at itigil muna rin pansamantala ng ilang government officials ang mga dinadaluhang pagtitipon, lalo na't ilang miyembro ng media na ang nagpositibo sa COVID-19 sa pagtupad sa tungkulin na sundan sila para makapaghatid ng balita sa publiko?
Rose, si Presidente naman, meron siyang lakad today and tomorrow. Itutuloy po yan kasi yung lakad naman niya ay sa area na mababa po ang COVID, no? Mga MGCQ areas. As far as yung mga ibang opisyalis po, wala po akong alam because I can only speak for the President, no? Now, nais ko lang hong paalalahanan na ang PhilHealth po, meron po tayong package sa lahat ng mga magiging biktima ng COVID-19. Meron po tayong package for mild, meron tayong package for moderate cases, and meron tayong package for severe cases. So sa mga nagiging biktima po, makipag-ugnayan po kayo sa PhilHealth para sa package na po pwede ninyong ma-recover.
Opo, ang second question niya, ano po ang benepisyo o ayudang ibinibigay ng gobyerno sa mga kawani ng pamahalaan na tinamaan ng COVID-19 at nahawahan pa ang kanilang pamilya dahil hindi sila inilagay sa quarantine facility ng kanilang ahensya?
Hindi lang po sa kawani ng gobyerno binibigay yung ating mga PhilHealth packages, no? Dr. Vega, hindi ko po memoryado yung mga PhilHealth packages ngayon. Ang alam ko lang po, ang severe case ay 700,000 plus, no? Pero magkano po ngayon yung ating mga PhilHealth packages? At ito po ay para sa lahat ng Pilipino, hindi lang po para sa mga kawani ng gobyerno. Sir, naalala niyo ba kung ano yung packages for mild and moderate cases of COVID?
Alam mo sa Secretary Harry, may 750,000 for moderate, ano. Tapos ang ano naman yung PhilHealth package naman for sa mild ho, lalong-lalo na pag nasa isolation centers ka lang, nasa 5,000. Hindi ko masyado yung severe, ano ho yun? That's more than 750,000 po.
Okay.
Hindi ko makuha yung exact amount right now.
So ako pala po, makaka-recover ako ng 5,000. No?
Oo, siguro.
In an isolation center. Okay, thank you very much, Doc. Next question, please.
Secretary, inform lang natin, kasama rin po natin sa Zoom ngayon si Dr. Salvana.
Ay, Dr. Salvana! Ay, pasensya na po kayo. Nasa script kasi, na bago yung script. Dr. Salvana, yes, please. Doc, ang tanong po, marami pa rin mga nagkakaroon ng alinlangan ngayon dahil bukod po dito sa kaso ng isang health worker natin na meron pong namatay po siya dahil sa COVID, marami rin pong nag-aalinlangan dahil dun sa report na nagkakaroon daw ng blood clotting ang AstraZeneca vaccine. No? Pakilinaw po, ano ba ho talagang estado ng mga bakuna na available ngayon sa atin sa Pilipinas? Dr. Salvana, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you to everyone for inviting me here. Yung ano po natin, yung nangyari po dun sa Europe, dun sa Astra, may report po na nagkaroon ng blood clot at may isa pong namatay. Bagamat sa ngayon, yung European Medicines Agency, after their investigation, sabi naman mukhang hindi naman po talaga related. Bagamat yung mga countries na naka-receive nung same batch nung Astra vaccine na yon, nag-pause rin po sila para ma-review lang po nila. Pero ang WHO po ay nagsasabi na patuloy po yung pagbakuna dahil delikado po talaga kung magkaroon ng COVID ang mga tao. So for now, wala namang abiso na mag-stop po tayo dito sa Pilipinas. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung paggamit po natin ng Astra dito. Yung doon naman sa isang namatay na healthcare worker, pinaliwanag na nga po ni Dr. Logo. And actually this underlines that doctors and healthcare workers are really in clear and present danger habang tuloy-tuloy po itong ating COVID-19. And so the sooner we can get them protection, sabi nga ni Dr. Logo, 2 to 3 weeks palang bago magsimula itong ating protection, the sooner we give it to them, the more healthcare workers will be protected. Mga 240,000 na po ata yung nabigyan natin ng first dose, and hopefully we can give them their second dose once it's appropriate. And those people will have a minuscule, almost non-existent risk of death once fully protected na po against severe disease.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Salvania. And my apologies. Na mali po yung script ata. Oo. Okay. Next question, please.
Yes, Secretary, tanong muna mula kay Laila Salaveria ng Inquirer. You've mentioned daw po that judges should be accorded presumption of irregularity in their issuance. What does the palace make of the fact that a judge has been a red tag or ordering the release of a journalist and labor organizer after a poster displayed in public, purportedly from communist rebels, thank a Mandaluyong judge for the release?
Well, unang-una po, nagko-conclude tayo na na-red tag si Judge Ignacio. Pero yung di umanong red tagging niya ay nakabase lamang sa isang tarpaulin. Kahit sino po pwedeng gumawa niyang tarpaulin na yan. So let us not conclude po na na-red tag na si Judge Ignacio, and authorities are investigating already this incident. Yung mga nagsabit po niyang tarpaulin na yan, mahuhuli po kayo dahil may CCTV po sa area. So malalaman talaga natin kung sino yung mga nagsabit ng tarpaulin na yan. Pero sa ngayon po, I refuse to conclude na red tag na po si Judge Ignacio. Iimbestigahan po natin yan dahil po pwede mga kalaban din ng gobyerno gumawa niyan para ibintang sa gobyerno. Hindi ko po sinasabi na yan ang katotohanan, pero antayin po natin ang investigasyon. Tingnan natin yung mga CCTV footages. Gayun pa man, kung totoong na red tag po si Judge Ignacio, ang presidente po mismo magbibigay ng proteksyon kay Judge Ignacio kung kinakailangan. Yan po ang assurance ng presidente. Pero sa ngayon po, let us not make hasty conclusions dahil kahit sino po pwedeng nagsabit ng tarpaulin na yan.
Okay. Ang second question po ni Laila Salaveria, does the palace consider this an indication daw po of continuing attacks on members of the legal profession? How can justice prevail in such an environment?
Hindi po, kasi nga po, that's already a conclusion which has not been established yet. No? Wag muna po tayo masyadong mabilis mag-conclude. Pero ganun pa man, ang sinabi ko nga po, kung talaga mapatunayan na nare-red tag ang ating mga mahistrado, obligasyon pa rin po ng ehekutibo, kung hindi po sapat ang resources ng executive, na bigyan ng proteksyon ang mga huwes natin.
Okay, ang third question po niya, how does the palace view the rejection of the law to divide Palawan into 3 provinces?
Wala po, dahil yan po ay desisyon ng mga taga-Palawan. And we respect the sovereign decision made by the people of Palawan.
Okay. Ang susunod po via Zoom, I think ang nakalagay po dito si Joseph Morong ng GMA7.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Good morning sa mga guests po niyo, Dr. Vega. How are you doing? Sir, can I go first to Dr. Lobo just a little bit on the incident?
Yes.
How are you, sir? Good morning. Sir, yun pong sa incident, so nung time na nagpabakuna yung tao, when was this? And kailan po ito?
March 4 po siya nagpabakuna.
March 4, and he or she is a healthcare worker, no?
She is a healthcare worker po.
And
47-year-old female. Opo.
and hindi po parang standard natin na dapat may test or may PCR test or antigen test to know the status of the person.
Hindi po yun hindi po yung pong doing a screening for antigen test is not a prerequisite to vaccination. Kaya nga po meron tayong health standard, meron po tayong health assessment form na you have to be honest in answering it. They also will ask you whether you are manifesting any symptoms of COVID within the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or even if you were diagnosed to have COVID in the last 3 months po. Yun po yung,
Sir,
yeah.
Sir, from a layman's point of view, no, and of course, this is in the context of vaccine confidence, na parang
Opo.
andaling idikit ng mga tao na parang, binakunahan nga, tapos namatay. So how do we, parang ihihiwalay, sir, if it's all possible, na hindi vaccine ang naging cause ng kanyang death and in fact, it was COVID? Paano po natin na ihiwalay yung ganong findings?
Usually po, yung pong committee na namin, yung National Adverse Event Following Immunization, yung pong national, no? And then the regional, yung RIFEC, they usually investigate any adverse event, no, following immunization, and we would like to identify the causality assessment. When we do the causality assessment, it's a systematic review which aims to determine the likelihood of a causal association between the event and the vaccine. Kumbaga po, pag nagbakuna, tinitignan po namin kung pong ito ay meron pong pwede natin ma-associate doon. Tapos it will take it will take some time to prepare the causality assessment. Tapos tinitignan po natin lahat ng mga, we conduct the investigation, yung po mga sinabit na papers, ini-evaluate namin. Nire-review din po namin yung mga clinical records. Tapos kino-compile po namin yung mga information. And finally, the results of causality assessment will be released po depending on the decision of all the experts po. It's a unanimous decision. And from what we have gathered, the patient could have been incubating at that time nung pong binakunaan siya. Wala po pong symptoms Parang na-expose po siya, nagkakaroon po siya ng manifestation nung pa after a day or two pa po Hindi po doon mismo na well po siya doon sa day ng binakunaan siya.
So sir, sorry if I hope you can indulge me. In other words, sir, yun pong ikinamatay niya ay hindi po yun kasama sa mga established na side effects ng bakuna?
Hindi po, yung pong bakuna, hindi po makakapag-cause ng infection. Definite po yun.
Okay.
So hindi po yung makakapag-contribute dun sa kinamatay po niya. Remember, yung pong bakuna na binibigay natin ay safe, tapos inactivated po siya. Wala rin pong pagkakataon na mag-multiply yung mikrobyo na nandun kasi patay na po yung mikrobyo. Ang gagawin lang po nun, mag-stimulate po ng ating immune system to produce an antibody, and at the same time, memory cells po para second exposure will have an adequate immune or robust immune response. Yun po siya.
Okay. Sir, Spokesperson, can I go to Dr. Vega, please?
Go ahead, please.
Dr. Vega, good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, sa NCR data, you've mentioned some data in passing, no? But I don't know if you have it with you, pero can you give us the statistics po, sir, of the available number of ICU beds, isolation beds, and ward beds in terms of number and then percentage of occupancy?
In terms of numbers for the NCR, generally we have for the COVID isolation beds and the ward beds that we have dito sa mga hospitals, that would total roughly about 7,000. And 52% of that is occupied. This is both public and private. All right.
Okay.
For the intensive care units, we have almost close to 679 ICU beds. So when we say that 64% of this is being utilized, it means that the balance now is still free. But there's a qualification here because that's the general NCR data that we have for the hospital care utilization rate, because this is really a metrics for looking at the capacity of the health system. So, but merong ano din, Joseph, areas wherein especially in Quezon City, Makati, and Taguig, wherein the hospital utilization rate is already bordering on the high risk area. That's about 80%. No? So yun yung binabantayan ho namin kasi mataas talaga lalo na sa both public and the private. Pero in a general percentage, it's still on the moderate risk level for the ICU at 64%.
Sir, sorry, ICU beds, you said 64% is being utilized, so therefore 30-ish, 30% na lang available?
Yeah, so 30% na lang available for the 79.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
okay.
What I'm saying.
Yes, sir. So how would you describe po the current surge that we are experiencing? How would you characterize it?
Well, compared last year, wherein wala talaga tayong experience of tackling and responding initially, we're in a better off situation right now because first of all, alam na ng mga healthcare workers on how they should behave and also the institutions in terms of bed allocation. Kasi alam nila na there is now a mandate coming from the Department of Health that 20% of this must be allocated in private and almost 30%. So in other words, we have improved capacity compared with last year. Second, nagkaroon na rin kami ng setup talaga with the one hospital command wherein we were able to do coordinated care and proper referral and even triaging and providing medical direction to all patients calling for assistance. Pangatlo, nagkaroon din tayo ng together partnership with the DPWH na nag-increase tayo ng beds through modular hospitals. In fact, sa not kidney, but the lung center, nakagawa po kami together with the DPWH ng modular hospital capable of handling moderate and severe. So about 25 beds. And meron kaming i-operationalize by 2 weeks from now, yung nagawa na sa QI. That's 110 beds capable of handling moderate and severe. So nakita talaga namin ang pangangailangan since last year sa number of beds dito, especially with the ICU dito sa Metro Manila. So we have also improved on several hospitals through the Bayanihan. Alam mo sa Bayanihan to Recover Act as One, meron kaming nabigyan tayo ng mga resources and na-allocate namin to sa mga government hospitals like Lung Center or Jose Rodriguez Memorial Center na mag-increase ang kanilang capacity for ICU. So ito yung ginawa naming improved capacity compared with last year. So kung tanungin mo kami, I think we are better prepared for this situation right now compared last year. We know what's effective in terms of public health standards, interventions, localized lockdowns by the local government unit. And we know that mayroon ng experience sa mga healthcare workers on how to go about it. We have PPEs already. The healthcare workers are getting vaccinated. So compared with last year, we're better off, we're better prepared, and we can keep on improving and adjusting to the changing times.
So right now, yung Okta is saying there's a 15.9% attack rate in NCR and some cities have more than 20% attack rate. My question, sir, is it possible to plot, given all these attack rates in the cities, would you be able to determine kung kailan mauubos yung ating mga hospitals?
Actually, if you take at the mathematical computation, assumptions by Okta, matatakot ka talaga. Can you imagine if you have 11,000 and 6,000 and you have just a number of beds dito sa NCR. So the way I look at it, these are alarm bells, sound bells talaga. If you don't do nothing, talagang mahuhulog tayo sa ganun. And the assumption is only based on mathematical projections. But more important is how we are going to respond to the increasing crisis right now. And if we are able to do that, if we are able to make sure that the public adheres to minimum health standards, and ayaw ko na sabihin minimum, you have to enhance it. If there is a double masking, you have to double mask. You have to do all of the things that the minimum health standard requires, and plus the executive power of the local government units to provide yung tawag nilang granular lockdowns or zonal containment, because this is very effective. And we have seen this last year. Paano natin napababa yung August to September, October, November? It was just because of the strong enforcement of the local government units in terms of making sure that they are able to contain and mitigate the transmission of the virus in their communities. Very active po ang mayors natin, and I can attest to that, and they can do it. This is just by executive functions. If we don't do anything, then the projection will be on track.
Okay. Sir, short question. Thank you, sir. Dr. Vega, nice to see you again. Sorry po. Secretary Roque, just 2 short questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, in relation to the discussion with Dr. Vega, what happens in April, assuming that there are no interventions, and do you think na dadating tayo sa point na mauubos yung mga hospitals natin, or you don't think that will happen? And second, just a little comment on yung mini launch yata, sir, na coalition, yung Isang Bayan, so Palace perspective. So on those 2 things, last na lang.
Well, una-una po, gumagawa nga po tayo ng hakbang para wag magkatotoo yung mga projections. And I think the local government units already know what to do. So I'm confident na mapapabagal po natin. In fact, nakikita na natin na bumagal na. Hindi na po siya 5,000 plus, nasa 4,000 na. And I think we can further slow it down gradually to 3,000 and then 2,000, back to the 1,000 level. Pero if that doesn't happen within April, fix po ang ating mga formulas on quarantines. So kung talagang maging critical po ang ating healthcare utilization rate, then that may justify changing our quarantine status. But hopefully not po, because I think the people and local government units and everyone now is contributing para mapabagal na yung pagkarat ng sakit. Hindi ko po alam kung ano yung one nation na sinasabi ninyo. Hindi ko pa siya nabasa anywhere.
Sila Justice Carpio, Ombudsman Morales, and si Secretary Del Rosario have launched a coalition. They're calling themselves opposition parang to provide maybe an alternative to in the coming elections.
Well, napakaaga pa para mag-usap ng eleksyon at politika. Yan naman po aming sinasabi palagi. Isang tabi muna po ang politika habang nandito po ang pandemya. Kami po sa administrasyon, gawa muna, pandemya muna bago politika.
Thank you for your time, sir. Dr. Vega, thank you. Guest, thank you, sir.
Salamat din, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph. Next question, Yusek Roque.
Yes, Secretary from Lanes Capanti of GMA News Online. Is the Palace supportive of vaccine czar Galvez' suggestion of administering Sinovac on senior citizens, even if this suggestion goes against the recommendation of FDA, which said Sinovac is only for clinically healthy people aged 18 to 59 years old?
Very supportive po dahil alam natin na napakadaming bansa na sa daigdig ang gumagamit ng Sinovac para sa senior citizens. And I think steps will be taken to ask the local representative of Sinovac to present additional data sa FDA para mabago po yung EUA na in-issue ng FDA. Ang kailangan lang naman po ng FDA additional data.
Okay, second question po niya. Former Health Secretary Esperanza Cabral said the country is now 10 steps back from square one with over 61,000 active COVID-19 cases, which is the same level as July 2020, and which government and private sector not in the position to spend for subsidies again, just like ECQ last year. Do you agree with her observations?
Well, I love Dr. Cabral, but I will let one of her students respond to her, Dr. Edsel Salvania.
Yes, thank you, Spokes. I think that, well, I also love Secretary Cabral, and she is very close to me. In this case, we probably have a professional difference in this manner, because as I have already mentioned in many of my posts, we know much better how to take care of COVID-19 po. I haven't had a death since January among my patients, and I've had very sick patients, including doctors in the ICU. So I think that from a completely medical standpoint, we're in a better position. Mas marami po tayong gamot. We have dexamethasone, we have remdesivir, we have tocilizumab as well. We also have right now, like with USEC Vega, we have this one hospital command which is really coordinating. Kasi yung problema talaga natin right now is we need to make sure that patients who need to be in the hospital do have hospital beds. The truth is, if these are all mild cases, it's not going to, hindi naman tataas yung death rates natin. Ang problem is, about 50% of the mild cases are also admitted in the hospitals, which pushes out some of the beds that can be used for severe. And so, yung pag-utilize po natin ng ating mga TTMFs for the mild cases, dapat mas gawin natin yon para we can reserve the hospital beds for the severe cases. Because the severe cases, yun yung mamamatay if we don't have hospital beds for them. And like I said, we already know how to take care of severe COVID. So two-pronged po yung approach. We really need to decrease the number of cases that we have right now, and we already know what works. We have face masks, we have face shield, we have enhanced contact tracing. And the second thing is we need to make sure that for those who do develop severe disease, that we continue to have hospital beds open for them because we can take good care of them, and mas mababa na po yung mortality compared to last year na left and right po talaga namamatay because we didn't really know what we were doing po.
Well, siguro based on personal experience dito sa aking isolation facility, meron pong mga doktor at mga nurses na 2 beses sa isang araw sila nagra-rounds, no? Isang 9 in the morning, isang 4 in the afternoon. So kung kayo po ay mild ng symptoms or asymptomatic, ako nga po asymptomatic dapat siguro ibigay ko na yung espasyo ko dito sa iba, no? At maghanda na lang ako ng sarili kwarto ko sa bahay ko na hiwalay sa aking misis, no? Pero hindi po ibig sabihin na palibasa sa isolation facility kayo pupunta, wala pong doktor. Meron pong mga doktor, may mga nurses po dito sa hotel where I'm staying right now. 2 beses po ang rounds nila at 2 beses kayo kinukuhanan din ng vital statistics kasama na po yung oximeter to measure your oxygen level. So alam ko po, nakakagulat pag kayo nag-test positive at lalo na pag meron na kayong mga mild symptoms, no? Pero hindi po dapat takbo ka agad sa ospital. Kung talagang nakakahinga naman kayo at kayo po ay parang meron lamang sipon, dito na po kayo sa mga isolation centers pumunta dahil meron din po mga doktor dito na mag-aalaga sa inyo. Okay?
Ang third question niya, Secretary, ano na daw po yung update sa Stay Safe PH contact tracing app? Is it fully operational by now po, and by how much do you see this reducing COVID-19 transmission?
Hindi ko po alam kung fully operational na kasi nung huling binalita ko po yan, they were given 10 days para asikasuhin lahat ng mga dapat gawin para maging fully implemented na siya. I don't think it has been 10 days yet, no? Pero importante po talaga ang stay safe ngayon dahil we need to use technology para dito sa napaka-importanting contact tracing laban po sa COVID-19.
Okay, thank you, Secretary. Si Melo Acuña po ang susunod na magtatanong.
Go ahead, Melo.
Yeah, good afternoon. I hope you feel better, Secretary.
Well, I'm completely asymptomatic po.
Good. I have some questions for...
Sorry to hear about your relative who was also positive, no?
Yeah, I hope he's on his way to recovery, and thank you. Thank you for the prayers. Let me ask USEC Vega. USEC Vega, good afternoon, and thank you.
Mr. Mel.
Yeah, thank you for the endorsement. Have you considered tapping hospitals outside Metro Manila? Should the surge continue in the rise in COVID-19 cases, USEC?
Yeah, tama ka, Sir Mel. Actually, ang experience namin last year through the One Hospital Command, nakita po namin na may mga open or allocated beds pa rin, yung Region 3 and Region 4. So yung mga pasyente po, lalo na yung mga private patients na who would need private care, kino-coordinate namin yung kanilang transfer to Region 3 and Region 4. So meron kaming nag-set up na rin kami ng One Hospital regional areas para mag-communicate sa different private hospitals doon para sa transfers. So we did that. And if it will happen na talagang magkakaroon ng sapat na kakulangan dito sa Metro Manila in terms of beds, then we can easily parang transfer or coordinate their care through the Region 3 or Region 4. Kasi doon sa Region 4 ho, sa Batangas Medical Center, in-anticipate na ho namin kasi last year nagpatayo din kami ng modular hospital doon sa Batangas Medical Center to make sure na meron ding coverage ang area na yon at saka meron kaming area na to refer. So ito yung tinitingnan talaga namin, Sir Mel, and we hope na it won't happen again for this time.
Yeah, I spent some time at East Avenue Medical Center last night, and I saw that sunod-sunod yung ambulansya na may dalang COVID-19 cases. For me, it's very alarming, even though I work for the media, pero it's alarming na halos sunod-sunod yung mga ambulansya. Now, my question is, have you considered getting more personnel? Because I heard a nurse collapsed last night while donning the PPE due to exhaustion. Siguro, baka pwedeng magdagdag kayo ng mga tauhan sa mga ospital, considering all this.
Yes, tama ka, Mel. That was one of the things na requested by both public and private hospitals last year, augmentation of the human resource. Kasi alam mo, hindi lang COVID actually ang magiging for providing services, pati yung mga non-COVID emergency, hindi po namin nilang tinatanggihan yan. Ang tinatanggihan lang ngayon ng mga hospitals, which we are trying to say to them, na yung mga elective cases muna. Wag muna kayong mga elective cases para magkaroon ng space po yung COVID. Pero yung mga non-COVID emergency, talagang tuloy-tuloy yan. And then sometimes, ito yung makikita nyo maraming ambulansya kasi kadamihan din yan, mga non-COVID na emergencies. Although meron talagang COVID emergencies. Pero sa katanungan nyo po sa HR, nag-augment na ho ang Department of Health sa both public and private hospitals since last year. Tapos kinukontinue ho namin to ngayon. And that is dahil sa Bayanihan to Recover Act, to Recover and Heal as One. And tinatanungan namin sa ibang hospitals na kung kailangan ho nila ng human resource, open ho kami. We are open for augmenting, lalong-lalo na yung mga areas na nagki-cater talaga for COVID.
How does the government take care of its personnel, especially the frontliners? Mga doktor, mga nurses, medtechs, and the like. Pero I heard sa East Avenue Medical Center, pati yung aircon technician naka-quarantine din dahil sa COVID. So, malawak itong problema natin ngayon.
Alam mo, Sir Melo, talagang nakakaiba ang COVID. It changed the paradigm in terms of health services. Kasi dito mo nakikita na yung mga ibang nurses, they would have to go on duty for the next 2 weeks. And pagkatapos niyan, mayroon silang dormitory or quarters to stay. So ang component ngayon ng sa hospital, like East Avenue you were saying, yung basketball court ho nila sa new building. Kasi actually yung bagong COVID referral center natin na inaugurate last year para magkaroon ng sapat na number of beds nasa East Avenue. Yung last floor ho nila noon is actually an activity area where pwede kang mag-basketball, pwede kang gym. So ginawa ho namin, kinonvert yan into sa parang dormitory and quarantine for the healthcare workers. So ang lahat ng hospitals ho ngayon, meron talagang arrangement with hotels and even motels na where they can quarantine their healthcare workers. So iba talaga kasi you have to provide accommodation, food, and even yung pagstay nila doon sa mga hotels na to.
I can only wish them the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Mel.
Thank you, Secretary Harry. All the best.
Thank you, Melo. Next question, Yusek Roque.
Yes, Secretary, tanong mula po kay Rosa Licos ng UNTV. Pakiclear lang po ang regulation sa pagbabakasyon kasama ang mga menor de edad. Nagkaroon po kasi ng laban bawi kahapon sa NTF. Ang unang anunsyo ay hindi isasama sa pagbabakasyon. Then later on, binawi na. So ano na po ang policy ng IATF about sa mga menor de edad? Are they allowed to travel po with their families? How about ang mga minor sa Metro Manila? Allowed ba silang magbakasyon kasama ang pamilya?
Allowed po magbiyahe point to point ang mga kabataan basta kasama po ang kanilang mga pamilya.
Opo. Secretary, hindi ko lang po alam kung nandito na si Pia Gutierrez ng ABS-CBN. Ang susunod po magtatanong sana.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pia. Go ahead.
Hi, sir. So my first question is for Yusek Vega. Doc, if the current trend of the increase of cases continues, particularly here in Metro Manila, how much time do we have before Metro Manila facilities become overwhelmed with COVID-19 cases?
It depends on the number of projection that you're looking at. But if you're looking at the Octa projection, wherein you hit almost 11,000, and talagang kung dadating sa situation na ganon, then it would be very hard for Metro Manila, lalo na yung mga hospitals, to cover the number of beds, and especially for the moderate and severe. Siguro ito na yung time na talagang we will have to readjust and make sure that these patients are coordinated in other areas or other regions like Region 4 and Region 3.
Okay, sir, do you see that happening in the next few weeks or in the next month if the current trend continues?
Alam mo, Pierre, the future really starts with what you do now. I always believe in that. In other words, if the alarm bells of Octa is there, it's already a measure that we have to do something now. Because the future really depends on what we will be doing individually and as a community. And I think I do believe that with last year's experience, we were able to contain and mitigate the virus because of several interventions, all public interventions.
Okay, so Doc, kanina you said something about enhancing minimum health standards like double masking. Do you think it's high time for the public to do that?
Ina-emphasize ko to because as you all know, the transmissibility or the contagiousness of this virus is getting medyo it's getting to be out of hand. And for me, minimum health standards dapat i-enhance na natin individually. Kasi this is an individual responsibility kasi, Pia. This is a shared responsibility and individual change of behavior. And we have to enhance what we are trying to do now so that on our end, as an individual person, we contribute for the common good of the community by enhancing what public standards there are.
Okay, you said double masking, sir. What other recommendations do you have, sir?
Aside from that is of course the other recommendations of sempre yung ventilation. You need to if you are in a group, you have to be in a very ventilated area. You have to be very sure that you do not interact with the person for so long. Yun, and social hygiene, and of course if there is nothing important to do, and not stroll or find yourself in a very crowded space. So these are and you just have it to enhance it, meaning the individual behavior has to be enhanced in terms of changing your mindset of doing things.
What about the recommendations, sir, to wear masks inside the house? Kasi apparently parang pamilya na yung nagkakahawaan daw.
Yeah, I think it's better if you're in a bubble and if you there is no people, or you just mingle among yourself, then you don't have to wear masks. But if you have a grandmother there and you work as a healthcare workers, and you know very well that the preclinical phase of COVID can be you can easily transmit. So I would advise you better to have masks.
Follow-up po kay Spokes, ito pong enhancing minimum health standards, are these something that the IITF will consider mandating in the next few days or weeks?
Well, mamaya po kasama po sa agenda. No? Binasa ko na po yung agenda, pero meron po ditong proposed circuit breaker for the rest of the Philippines. No? I think circuit breaker, ito po yung immediate measures that can be implemented para wag na magtuloy-tuloy ang projections. No? And because of the agenda this afternoon, we will be having a press briefing tomorrow, no, to tell you kung anong na-desisyonan ng IATF. And hopefully tomorrow we will also be joined by the different SARs. Hopefully si Yusek Vega can also join us because we will be inviting the isolation SAR, the testing SAR, as well as Chief Implementer and Vaccine SAR, Charlie Galvez, also tomorrow to join us.
Just to give us an idea what to expect, sir, what do you mean by circuit breaker
Hindi ko pa po alam.
rules?
Hindi ko pa po alam, no? It's just in the agenda. I just got a copy of the agenda now. There was a technical working group meeting yesterday, but as you know, I'm in isolation, so hindi ko masyado alam kung ano nangyari. But I will be joining the IATF meeting by Zoom later.
Sir, last na lang. Sir, you said kanina you're in a facility in San Juan, but I'm sure you're aware of some posts saying that you're isolating in a presidential suite in a hotel somewhere in Pasay. So could you respond to this issue, sir?
That's fake news po. I'm in San Juan, along Annapolis Street.
Can you clarify lang kasi you said kanina na you're staying in a hotel? For information lang po of the public, as a policy, sir, are COVID-19 patients allowed to isolate inside hotels?
Yes, there are some hotels that were hired by the government to house mild and asymptomatic patients. Hiwalay pa po ito dun sa mga hotel na ginagamit na isolation for OFWs. Yung chinichismis po na nandun ako sa Pasay, I do not even know if we have the means to pay for that hotel dahil masyadong grande po yan. 7-star hotel po yan. No? Ang alam ko po, 2 to 3-star hotels lang po ang kinukuha natin, including motels. Hindi naman po ako nasa motel. 2-star hotel naman.
Pero are you considering going home and isolating at home na lang, sir?
Well, there's a possibility kasi kagabi, 3 yung tinulungan kong pumasok dito. And I'm noticing na parang ako lang asymptomatic dito and everyone else has symptoms, no? So I'm conferring with my doctor actually if I'm better off staying here or if I should go home, no? But I will be discussing with my doctor. At saka yung doctor dito, Dr. Du, is also doing her rounds at 4 p.m. But as of yesterday po, 3 talaga yung aking tinulungan makapasok dito. Isang director po from the Office of the Press Secretary, Office of the Presidential Spokesperson, isang sikat na broadcaster sa PTV4 at isa pa pong USEC ng isang line department have checked in here. So the rooms are fast being occupied and I understand we're also in full capacity.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Get well soon, sir.
Thank you very much po.
Yes.
USEC, go ahead.
Secretary, i-follow up ko na lang, unahin ko na po yung tanong muna ni Laila Salaveria para po kay kay Yusek Vega. Yung double masking daw po, is that the official DOH recommendation or kung kay Yusek Vega lang daw po yun?
Actually, Rocky, sa akin lang yun. I was just trying to emphasize enhancing our behavior in public to strictly adhere to public health standards. So when I said that, it was really a way of a proposal to do it so that you can enhance our actions individually. Yun lang. Nothing, parang ano, not on a set na this is going to be the directive of the Department of Health. We'll wait for that.
Opo, may follow-up din po si Ace Romero ng Philippine Star to Secretary Roque Yusek Vega says 64% of ICU beds in Metro Manila are already occupied. Ano po ang implication nito? What is the likelihood that the capital region will be placed under a stricter quarantine measure or a lockdown, specifically ECQ?
Sa ating standards po, no, sa ating criteria, isa po sa mga criterion para mapataas ang quarantine classification ay yung healthcare utilization rate. No? Kapag umabot na po tayo sa danger level, yung red na tinatawag, that may be a ground to increase the quarantine classification. Pero meron naman po tayong one hospital command center and sa aking mga narinig kay Dr. Vega, posible naman pong i-augment natin ang healthcare capacity natin sa Metro Manila by utilizing the healthcare capacity of the regions adjoining Metro Manila kasama na yung Calabarzon at saka Central Luzon. So titignan po natin kasi with the one hospital command center, may estimate naman po ng team ni Dr. Vega kung talagang makukulangan tayo ng mga hospital beds or hindi, utilizing already the adjoining provinces.
Follow-up po ni Ace Romero, 60% occupancy ng ICU, hindi po ba daw alarming na yon?
Well, I would say na it is a bit of a reason to be alarmed. Pero sa akin po, given that the people I think are now mobilizing themselves and concentrating on lowering the numbers, tignan po natin kung ano magiging resulta ng concerted effort ng sabayanan to halt the rising cases of COVID-19. Sir Vega, are you alarmed?
Yes, the numbers, moderate risk na kasi yan. It's alarming. We can be very comfortable pag low risk talaga, below mga 30%. Ano? But this is already 60%. So alarming, but we need to do something. We have to do the appropriate response in terms of the capacitating yung mga hospitals, both public and private, dito sa Metro Manila.
Opo. Secretary, susunod, tanong naman po ni Pia Ranyada.
Go ahead.
Tanong po ni Pia Ranyada ng Rappler. Is DOH daw po compiling the number of cases among government personnel? What's the latest figure of total active cases?
Sir Vega, meron ba hong figures ang DOH?
I don't have I have the active numbers of the total, but I don't have the, I cannot qualify kung how many of these active COVID patients are government workers. That I have to look into, Pia.
Pero alam mo, Yusek, no? Kasama ko ngayon dito sa facility, isang anchor nyo dyan sa PTV4. Hindi ko alam kung nag-anunsyo na siya, no? Dalawang tagamaro, yung aking direktor sa aking opisina at isa pang Yusek na taga-ibang departamento, no? This is dyan one isolation. Pero ang feeling ko nga, dun sa communication department ng gobyerno, 5 na kaming nakabilit dito sa quarantine facility na ito.
Yes, Secretary. Yung second question po niya, ni Pia Ranyada, what will the government daw po do about the rise in cases among government personnel and what's driving this?
Well, tingin ko po kung ano yung dahilan na mabilisang kumakalat itong COVID ay siyang dahilan din kung ba't maraming nahahawa sa mga taong gobyerno kasi hindi naman hiwalay sa mas malaking lipunan yung mga taong gobyerno. Pero yun nga po, no, for what it's worth, marami pong nahahawa ay asymptomatic or mild cases, no. Ang ating pakiusap po nga wag masyadong magpanic kung meron pong mild symptoms, pumunta sa isolation facility at wag nang pumunta ng hospital dahil ulitin ko po dito sa mga isolation facilities, meron din pong doktor na mag-aalaga sa inyo. Okay.
Ang susunod, ang tanong naman po ni Christina Mendez ng Philippine Star. According daw po to Mr. Montulfo, General Sinas and his security team got vaccinated with Sinopharm last year. He contracted COVID-19. If this happened, should there be a cause of concern for the PSG since the president's close-in security officers also got Sinopharm jobs? Should there be a review of this protocol since PSG got compassionate use certification from FDA for additional boosts?
I would prefer that a doctor answer that, no? Dr. Salvania?
Yes po. Yung first generation vaccines natin na tinatawag, yung pinakaunang types of vaccines na lumalabas ngayon, ang main objective po talaga niya is to prevent severe disease. Now, yung prevention ng transmission is secondary kasi hindi pa nagagawa yung mga pag-aaral kasi mas mahirap po aralin yung prevention of transmission eh. Pero so ang advice po namin kahit nabakunahan ka na, for now continue to use yung ating minimum health standards or enhanced health standards sa USEC Vega set to make sure na hindi kayo asymptomatic carrier kahit nabakunahan na kayo. The vaccine, the main effect of the vaccine is really to prevent you from dying, lalo na kung nasa high-risk group ka. Sinasabi ko nga sa mga tao, kung itong mga bakuna na meron tayo ngayon, even if hindi pa tayo sigurado na transmission blocking sila or hindi, kung meron tayo ng bakuna na to last year, dun sa 2.6 million na namatay na from COVID-19, less than 10% of none would have died. So these vaccines are very helpful, especially in preventing severe disease. Pero sa ngayon, yung transmission blocking is still a question mark. And so we need to continue to stick to our health standards para hindi po tayo makahawa. Bagamat minuscule na yung risk natin na mamatay sa COVID, baka naman makahawa tayo sa isang tao na hindi pa nababakunahan at high risk at yun yung mamatay.
Opo. Secretary, may tanong po si Kylie Atienza ng Business World. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Wednesday urged the national government to allow the private sector to import and purchase vaccines on their own without restrictions and taxes as the country faces a fresh surge in coronavirus infections. Will the government consider this proposal?
Allowed po mag-import ang mga private sector. Kaya nga lang po sa pamamaraan ng tripartite agreement. Hindi po gobyerno nag-i-insist on the tripartite agreement. Ang katunayan po, wala pa kasing bakuna na commercially available. Wala pang bakuna na approved for general use. So kinakailangan maging partido pa rin sa kasunduan ng gobyerno dahil kasama dun sa kasunduan na kung merong side effect ang bakuna, gobyerno ang mananagot. No? So sa mulat-mula po, hindi po natin pinipigilan ng private sector, pero gustuhin man nila, they cannot go to a manufacturer and purchase on their own. Dadaan at dadaan pa rin po sila sa gobyerno dahil syempre yung manufacturer, dahil nasa emergency use authorization pa lang po sila, ay kinakailangan din ng garantiya na hindi naman sila hahabulin for the side effect and government will answer for it.
Okay. Yung second question po niya, Secretary, ay nasagot niyo na about a coalition of so-called democratic forces seeking to challenge admin bets in the 2022 polls. Nilaunch daw po today. Retired Associate Justice Antonio Carpio will head the coalition which considers VP Robredo, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, ex-soldier Sandy Trillanes, and Senators Grace Poe and Nancy Binay as its candidates. Ano daw po ang reaction niyo dito? Tanong pa rin po yan mula kay Kylie Atienza ng Business World.
Hindi pa po panahon sa politika, pero hindi natin po sila mapigilan. I wish them the best. Good luck to Justice Carpio.
Opo. From Maricel Halili ng TV5, private companies reiterates their call to allow them to directly buy vaccines pa rin po to, from the manufacturer to hasten the delivery. Will the government reconsider daw po ito since tumataas daw po ang kaso ng COVID cases?
Ask and answered na po.
Tanong po ni, may follow-up lang po si Ace Romero, sandali lang po, Secretary, at meron pa rin po si Samed Delilla. Follow-up po ni Ace Romero, ano po ulit yung percentage na dapat ma-breach for healthcare capacity para tawagin itong critical, at pag critical po ang Metro Manila will be a reason. What will that be a reason to impose lockdown?
Well, sa ngayon po, no, hindi ko po maalala yung exact percentage. I'm sorry, nagsi-senior moment ako. But tomorrow I will answer that.
Opo. Tanong po ni Samed Danilla ng Business Mirror, may naging reaction na po kaya si President Duterte on the proposed adjustment of MAV and tariff rate for pork after some lawmakers raised their concerns that it could be abused by some people? Is he still waiting for the recommendation of DA o Department of Agriculture on the said adjustment, or nag-decide na po siya i-shelve ito?
Wala pa pong desisyon. And the President, I verified this, would like to know more about this latest controversy.
Okay, Secretary, so far ay wala na pong akong tanong na nakuha na dito. Maraming salamat po, Secretary Roque, at sa ating mga bisita ngayong araw.
Okay, maraming salamat po sa ating mga naging bisita, si Dr. Lobo, Dr. Salvania, and Yusek Vega. Maraming salamat, Yusek Roque. At dahil nga po merong IATF meeting bukas at dahil kinakailangan na patuloy po ang impormasyon na makarating sa ating taong bayan, ay magkakaroon po tayo ng special presidential press briefing tomorrow, no, para talakayin yung mga magiging desisyon ng IATF mamayang hapon po. Pero hanggang bukas po, sa ngalan po ng ating Presidente, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, ito po ang inyong spokesperson Roque nagsasabi, Pilipinas, kaya natin itong COVID-19. Nakaya nga natin ang bagyo, lindol, pagputok ng bulkan, kakayanin din natin itong COVID-19. Hanggang bukas po, magandang hapon po, Pilipinas.